Well, it's my second time doing this video. This time, look, I'm gonna have to remember that some videos take more than one try to do. Now, let's get into this. Izuku, of course, would be born quirkless, and this would break Izuku. This would shatter his mindscape to a certain point, even lower than the canon anime. Actually, his mind would just be completely fucked. No dark sage here, but his mind would be fucked. And basically, Izuku would go through the catalogs and take textbook of every single possible thing that you could think of just to find something that can resemble a quirk. But then he finds it. People have mastered a thing called ki, and it might even have the power to destroy planets. He then smiles and then says, maybe this could be what makes me useful. Izuku goes through training. Now, the initial training was supposed to be grueling, but Izuku wasn't one for doing workouts. So we did workouts time to time to actually boost his actual strength, but he mostly meditated. Now he got to the point of meditating where he would be able to center on one point, and no matter who talked to him, if he didn't want to stop meditating, he would still be completely focused. Now, Izuku, one day his house is broken into, and Inko walks inside of Izuku's room, and then she says, I'll go check that out. You stay here. And then she walks downstairs. And then Izuku can hear a smacking sound. One man is over Inko. And he then says, well, if you do me a favor, I won't kill that kid that I just heard you talking to upstairs. And then she says, okay. And then the man starts to unzip his pants, which Izuku runs in front of him, and then he punches him in the face. And he says, what were you about to do to my mom? With a blood-curdling voice. The man then said, stupid move, kid. You and your mom would have been able to survive if you would have just minded your own business. And then he pulls out a gun. Now, Inko runs in front of him, which was stupid because she had telekinesis and she could have just pushed the bullet somewhere else. But, she runs in front of him and she gets shot. She falls down to the ground, and Izuku looks at Inko and then screams. Now, when he screams, he activates UI, but not mastered UI, unmastered UI. His Ultra Instinct looks like this. Now, inside of his current state, he is unfit to actually fight anybody because his eyes are just glowing in rage because of his ki. And his ki just keeps on increasing and increasing. The man then shoots at Izuku again, but this time he dodges without even trying. He dodged faster than the speed of sound, which pretty short bullets pierce the speed of sound. If I'm wrong, correct me. But yeah. Izuku then looks at the man, then laughs, and then shoves his hand through him. He then says, you are nothing but a criminal. And then he laughs inside of a blood-curdling voice. And then he looks him straight inside the eyes and he says, you are nothing but a criminal. a criminal that nobody would care if disappeared. He then grabs the man by the um by the arm while his hand is still through him, and then he pulls out his hand, and then the man's guts spill onto the ground, and then he says, "So cute, you're dying slowly too. I made sure to hit the least vital point just so you'll suffer." Now, the man's just bleeding out, grabbing his own guts, trying to put them back inside of his body. Izuku then says, "There's no point. You're still gonna die." And then he laughs, and then he forms a key ball inside of his hand, and then hits the man with it, forming a giant hole inside of his chest. Now, the paramedics are called, and Inko's brought to the hospital. Inko's not dead, but she does have a permanent issue that messes with her walking. Now, Izuku from this moment, he goes through the most amount of training that he could ever go through in his life. He does thousands of push-ups daily. And also, which if you did not know, I'm pretty sure Goku could do like 1 billion push-ups and still not be tired. Let's not get into that. Um, anyway, Zuko goes to school, and nobody would really mess with him, except for Bakugo. Bakugo would do old, kind of subtle stuff, showing that he doesn't have respect for Zuko. Stepping on his shoes, which is mad disrespectful, knocking down his books, walking into him and then saying oops, and knocking him down time to time, and then laughing about it. Now, one day, Bakugo thinks this kid has never really revolted at me doing anything, so he tries to hit him with an explosion, which Izuku instantly puts on his key shield. And he puts his hand over Bakugo's hand, which Bakugo tries to hit him with another explosion from his other hand, and he grabs his other hand too. And then he says, "Bakugo, Bakugo, Bakugo." I would have just kept on staying quiet if you would have kept on doing that subtle stuff. Well, unless you did something like this. And then he kind of grips Bakugo's hand just a little bit tighter. And Bakugo says, "Get off me, you quirkless nerd." And then he tries to kick Izuku, but when he does, Izuku kicks him inside of his leg instead and breaks his leg instantly. Now, Buck goes on the floor in pain, which they're in eighth grade at this point. And Izuku then pushes down onto his arms, like near his veins, and breaks his all the bones inside of his arm. Now, the reason that it wouldn't just break his hand is because it did break the bones of his bottom hand, and then there were tiny little cracks that went up from his arms, which would cause permanent damage, no matter who healed him. Even that one nurse lady, I forgot her name, but Izuku looks at Bakugo and says, "I might hurt people and go against the hero code, but at least I'm not a villain." And then Bakugo says, villain? A villain would only do something like this." He then says, "No, that's not true at all. A villain makes fun of somebody that can't control what's happening to them. A villain knocks into somebody and knocks their books off the table and does subtle stuff like that just to see if they're weak. A villain does all of this for attention. A villain is jealous of people. A villain hurts people because he can." Now, I'm not a scientist, but you sound like a villain, dear Bakugo. Then he pushes a key shield onto Bakugo, which he's making the key shield thinner and thinner, so it's pushing it further and further into the ground. And he's saying, feel this pain, and then remember, when you bully somebody else, they might have an even more powerful power than me. I am only a child. Just know when you actually get to an actual villain, things will play out a little bit more different. Now, at this point, Izuku would be amazing with UI. He would have 35% unlocked, which is amazing because nobody really, gets that much of UI unlocked. Their first few years of using it. But Izuku did. I am the I am Moondust, the new whatever. And that was what if Deku had a UI. Yes, my first name is Moondust. My last name was from my old YouTube channel, the new whatever. Share this with your friends. If you could press that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm not gonna ask you to hit the like button because it really doesn't matter to me. The only thing I really care about is subscribers and views. So if you enjoyed this, send it to your family and friends. I will see you next time.